On this episode of the Post House Podcast, we talk to our director of photography and resident hockey nerd, John Massarella. From time machines to world travels, we dive deep into what makes John tick. Hint, hint, it's probably burritos.
So, Johnny.
Yes.
Welcome to the Post House Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm forcing you to do this. Not really. Come on, this is John talking about John. This is like John's favorite thing.
No, it's not.
You love to tell your stories.
Not in front of cameras.
Oh my God, here we go. All right, so anyways, John, so the Post House Podcast where we talk about personal, professional, and creative fulfillment. So tell me, John, we have known each other for a long time, it seems like now. So John is the DP here. Started out as a great AC, came on as a freelancer as most people do. And I mean, my God, it's been, we were just talking. How long has it been?
I'm coming up on 7 years.
7 years as a full-time employee.
Yes.
And you freelanced a little bit before that. So interesting. I tell this story a lot for people who are like, well, how'd you meet John? So do you remember how we met, John?
Yes, I do.
So it was at a gas station, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So cool story. John, I'm at a gas station, east side of Columbus, and kind of walk me through what kind of happened, because I pulled up and there's a time machine at this gas station.
Yes. I have a brother-in-law, Carl, who is a big kid at heart and likes to collect cars. And on this particular day, it
was my birthday, by the way.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
He was picking up his Back to the Future DeLorean up from the shop, and he needed help driving it back to his house. So we took his Bentley Continental up to the shop to pick up the DeLorean, and I had my choice to drive one or the other. I chose the Bentley because I really didn't want to wreck the DeLorean, and we stopped for fuel. And both of those cars get a lot of attention, but especially the DeLorean. So everyone pulls up and starts taking pictures and talking to Carl about the cars. And then this Mercedes pulls up, and this guy gets out, is geeking out about the car, starts talking to my brother-in-law about what he does professionally. Then he turns to me and says, "What do you do?" I said, "Oh, I'm a news photographer at Channel 6. "Shut up. What's your name?" "I'm John Massarella." "I'm Tim Flaherty." "Oh, hey, I know you. I know your name, blah, 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 blah." So long story short, we worked at the station together, but on different shifts. So we had never met during our brief crossover there, and found out we had some of the same friends. And then you guys called a few months later looking for, I think you wanted to shoot with Carl.
Yeah. So I mean, the way my side of the story was, I pull up, I see this DeLorean and start talking to this very eccentric guy, and he's, going 100 mile an hour. And he points over and says, "Yeah, my
I wasn't his brother.
No, I was trying to think what he said, because he's just like, my sister's boyfriend. Yeah, like my sister's boyfriend. Yeah, he works in media too." And I walk over and I'm like, "What's a guy that working at Channel 6 driving a Bentley?" He's like, "Oh, it's his." And so we had the conversation, and then, I mean, that was like, I know that was in September, because I went back, we were going out for my birthday or whatever. And I was like, man, I just met the strangest thing, how the world works. So I do know it was like a couple months later, because you were moved off to New York. Mm-hmm. You went off to sell some toys, and you did Squirmels, and this guy is a fantastic Squirmel demo guy. Yeah. Working at Toys R Us, Times Square. So you were kind of out of, you jumped out of the business because
took a break from media.
Yeah. But, but take a step back. I mean, you went to a technical school, you went down to Full Sail, mm-hmm. where you learned about the industry. Mm-hmm. So a little bit about the Full Sail experience, right? Yep. So tell me a little bit about like that being, kind of the catalyst to your career, really.
Full Sail?
Yeah.
Well, I always knew I wanted a job in media, specifically film, and I thought I wanted to be a director. But when I got to school, I realized I didn't know anything about anything. And Full Sail is a very kind of whirlwind type of tech school where everything's hands-on. And it was there that I realized I did not want to be a director, didn't love it, namely working with talent. and that's where I discovered my love for the camera department. And I thought being at school, I loved being around the camera. I loved being in the camera department. And I thought it was going to be probably a career second, or at the time, I thought it was going to be a second AC. I really liked that role. And then moved out to LA as soon as I graduated after a year at Full Sail. And I landed in the world of reality TV through some of my contacts in that world. And, it goes to show you how who you know is so important in this business, because like I knew a good friend of mine was a producer on that show. She introduced me to the tech supervisor of that show, who's also a Columbus native. He was one of my first mentors. And then when I was thinking about coming back home, he introduced me to his sister, who was a Channel 6 alum. She wrote me a letter of recommendation, and that led to my job there, and that led to my job here. So it really is about who you know.
Yeah, I mean,
steps.
Kind of the, relationships and long-term relationships matter. I mean, we talk about this all the time, that, kind of without the relationships, we really don't have, we don't have business. I mean, because it really is about, who kind of is who you know, but it's like, it's how you treat those people along the way. And like, one of the biggest things that, we talk about at Post House is that, we understand that like the personal fulfillment side and the professional fulfillment side and the creative fulfillment side, like when all those things are running together, like that's when it works out the best. So like, because we had a relationship with people at Channel 6, Justin, he knew you really well. He was our shooter at the time. I had a gig in Buffalo with a relationship, which just happened to be my cousin, who is my mentor. And we just purchased a Red Epic, and, he hired us to go shoot, and we were down in AC. Like we needed, and we may have even been down a shooter. Like I think Justin like was having a baby at the time. So there was a lot of like, is he going to be available or not? So we knew you were in New York, even though it was New York City.
Mm-hmm.
We made the phone call and said, "Hey, John, we got this gig in Buffalo. Can you help out?" And you said yes. So you drove down to Buffalo, and our first professional gig we were working together is all tied back to relationships. And we're working with Andy, and we're working with D-Post. You come in from New York to Buffalo. So tell me about your first gig here with the Post House.
Yeah, I mean, I was, my brief toy career was meant to be a quick stopover. So like the plan was to go to New York and help my wife set up this business demoing toys in New York. And then with the thought of getting back into media as soon as I could in like a freelance way in New York. And I never got back to it while I was there until, you called me to go work that gig in Buffalo. So my first gig was to drive up to Buffalo, which is actually farther than Columbus. It's farther from Manhattan to Buffalo than it is Columbus to Buffalo. Drive 7 hours, get up there. I got there before you guys, so I watched my Jackets play in a bar until you got there, and then I learned the Red Epic that night in the apartment that we were staying at, and went to bed, woke up, and did my first gig with you guys. So it was like that was the whirlwind kind of like situation. It was like learn this camera quick because you got a gig with it in the morning, and it was great. I loved it.
Yeah. So I mean, and it, that gig is, there are a lot of similar ties here, right? So you're saying you're watching a Jackets game. That commercial was for the Sabres. It was like it was a promotional activation with the bank and M&T Bank or something, and the Sabres. So like it was the mascot driving through the ATM machine, on a Zamboni. So like we're out in the freezing cold Buffalo air, and you got a mascot and a Zamboni. So like, hockey's a big part of your life.
Yep.
Big part of my life.
Yep.
One of our, we play on a beer league team together, which is great.
Yes, we do. Go Dummies.
The crash test dummies. But I mean, tell me a little bit about like that personal side of the like fulfillment. Like, so, professionally, you get to shoot awesome things. You get to shoot the things that you love.
Mm-hmm.
You get to shoot some hockey stuff. So tell me a little bit, what is like creatively fulfilling about working, at Post House Creative?
For me, it's and I mean, being a DP, you get a new challenge pretty much with every shoot that you have.
Right.
So whether that's a new creative challenge, like the client wants to do XYZ, that's something you've never done before. If it's lighting, it's a lens choice. If it's a camera movement choice. So kind of figuring out how to do what they want is creatively fulfilling to me. And then, just trying new techniques and trying new pieces of gear. That's what really keeps it fresh for me. For the most part, every job is something new.
Right.
Whether it's a different type of story that you're telling or a different way to tell that story with different tools, every time is different. So that's what's creatively fulfilling for me, is just that problem solving. And it can even be like logistics. Like one of my responsibilities here is the logistics of production. Who are the people that are going to be there? How are they getting there? How's the gear getting there? What gear are we taking? How far are we going?
Right.
We're leaving the country. Do you need a passport for your gear? What you do, like a carnet? Like figuring out all that stuff, like how to even pack it, who's taking what. Like those are all creative challenges that I face daily, and that's what keeps it going for me. Like, what's next?
Yeah, so like on the logistics side, like I've been wanting for a long time, like to have like a separate breakout video, because we're pretty good at like how we pack, and we've been literally around the world. Like you just came back from New Zealand. We spent 2 weeks in Italy. We've been to Mexico 2 or 3 times for work, and if you don't have your paperwork in order, you end up in the room, and that's not a fun place to be. And I've been there,
Right.
And we learned a lot over the years, and there's a lot of knowledge that can be transferred. And there's a lot of things that from a packing sense, like even just using the right, the carry our tripods, right? Tripod hard cases are super expensive, but what's not super expensive and that most people look the other way on are golf club bags. Like, so we learned that really, really early on. Like we'll take these golf club cases and pack them full of all of our miscellaneous things and our sticks, and it's protected, and kind of no one is, it's just you're wheeling the golf bag through the airport. So,
yeah.
I definitely think that there's an opportunity for us to share that knowledge. And I think it'd be really interesting, because I always find the logistics part super fascinating for me. Like whether it's booking the travel, trying to find out the best route, the best cost, what time we leave in, those things,
Right.
and that's really fun. The travel part for me is super fulfilling. Talk me through a couple the recent trips that you did. You just came back from New Zealand. What was going on there?
Andrew and I took a trip to Auckland, and for our great client partner Brawl in UK, they needed a production crew there to document their client makes prosthetic joint replacements, and this particular one was a series of knee surgeries, and the host surgeon uses a particular technique. And they were showcasing that to a couple of other doctors, and we were there to capture that. And, there's a lot involved in that, and what should be a relatively straightforward shoot. But it's across the world. It's literally on the other side of the planet. It took us basically 24 hours to get there of travel. And 2 camera shoot in a operating theater. And on a tech scout, we discovered challenges that we hadn't anticipated. We needed to record. The doctor uses these interesting like probes in the knee.
So like the output of a monitor, basically. Is that what you do?
Yeah, and it's a specialized camera that sends back like a instant 3D image of this knee, and he uses that to kind of line up the joints, I think. And I'm no doctor, but like it's
played one on TV.
But it was pretty cool. But we needed to capture that. And so, using our experience and our resources, we solved that problem in the moment, not, without a minute to spare. And that's kind of, other than the beautiful landscape of New Zealand, that was kind of the most memorable thing. Is like you walk into a foreign country and you're presented a problem that you think you never thought you were going to face, and you got to solve it. That's what you do every day in production, like there's always going to be something. It's never going to go exactly the way you plan.
So, walking into different countries, right? That's a challenge, but we do get to travel quite a bit. And is that personally fulfilling for you? I mean, you got a game going on where you try to check off as many states as you can and countries. Talk me a little bit through about your game and how that ties back to being like personally fulfilled. Like you get to travel, you get to do some pretty cool stuff. I mean, not only is the work fun and creative, but
yeah,
we've gotten to see, we literally have gotten to see the world, which is fun.
Yeah. I mean, one of the big reasons why I joined this industry was to travel, see the world, have new experiences. And I've gotten to do that here. I do have a running competition with Scott to see who can cross off all 50 states first. It's pretty close. I'm 11 states away, and I think he's 10 states away. We've crossed almost 30 states together. I have to go back and check my notes. Maybe 25. But we've been to a lot of states together. I've been to a number of countries that I would have never been to, like New Zealand. And I love to travel. It's a little harder now with having a 2-year-old, but
sure.
I'm always ready to hit the road and go see something new, experience something new.
So on the personal side, like the relationship side, right? We talked about relationships really matter. There's some family here in the business, right? Like, so tell me a little about your connection with Andrew.
Andrew is my first cousin.
Andrew is your first cousin.
Yes.
And he works here at Post House as a producer.
Sorry to everybody that we told we were brothers. That was a running game we had too.
So how'd you get Andrew into this gig?
I don't remember the specifics other than we compete in a lot of like film challenges, like 48-hour film challenge or winter film or whatever. And Andrew, I don't remember how he expressed interest in doing it, but he expressed interest in doing one of the 48 hours with us. I always knew he was a huge movie buff, but I didn't realize he had an interest in the production side of it until he wanted to do a 48 hour with us. And we brought him on, and I think he came over the day the contest started. He did a walkthrough of our truck with me, and I said, okay, here's some basic equipment. Here's some of the things that the DP might call for, and here's the camera department. Here's some of the things I might holler for. And he was awesome and impressed us, to the point where he became our first intern and probably our best intern still. Sorry, Chad, if you're listening. But yeah, and then, one thing led to another, and it was pretty clear that he had a passion for the business. I laugh now that it felt like we were grooming him for the camera department, and that wasn't necessarily where he wanted to go. Now he's a great producer once we figured out that's what he wanted. But yeah, it's great. It's great having him in the business. It's fun going all over the world with him too, and I love butting heads with him.
Of course. I mean, that's kind of a running joke, right? It's always Andrew. Sometimes he, now as a producer, he's got a lot more, he's responsible to the client. So therefore, I can definitely see where those moments are where the creative side clashes with the business side,
mm-hmm.
and, decisions got to be made. So, it's great. And I think it's good for the business, but I mean, go back to the relationship thing. It's like, we wouldn't have known Andrew had we not known you, and that,
right.
And, being such a good asset to the team, like it all kind of like gels together. So we get to work on a lot of cool projects, get to go a lot of fun places. You're a hockey guy. Tell me about getting to work with the hockey industry and the different teams we get to work with. So I mean, clearly supporting the Blue Jacket proud today.
Yes. Anybody that knows me, even briefly, knows I'm a avid Blue Jackets fan, and I always loved hockey. But I think working closely with some of our hockey partners, my love for the game has grown exponentially. And, I started playing hockey in the last year, and, just being around it, the access that I have to the game and to the players, I mean, those experiences I'll never forget. Like, I've been at center ice in a number of arenas, and I've seen a number of arenas, and I've gotten to watch really cool moments, like in CBJ history, like winning the first game
In
at
playoffs.
home, and
Yeah.
winning the first playoff game at
Right.
home, and Fliggy's overtime goal to seal it. I was right there for that. So it's awesome. I mean, it's pretty great to be a part of that. And that's one of those perks of the job that I love. Like, I love the access to the game, and I love thinking of new ideas for the team. I'm always coming up with crazy ideas for them, and so it's just one of the great perks of the job.
All right. So now we're gonna do a little rapid fire, right?
Okay.
So top of mind stuff.
Okay.
Give me your top 3 favorite hockey players.
Nick Foligno is certainly up there. Mark Messier, that was one of my favorites when I was growing up. And I'm a big fan of Matt Calvert. I'm pretty sad to see him playing for my second favorite team, which would be the Avalanche.
Okay. All right. So your coffee guy.
Yes.
Favorite type of coffee.
Black.
Black and only
Hot black.
Okay. All right. That's pretty lame. But no, give me like a favorite area, like a country or anything, like a certain type of bean, an espresso bean. Or, I mean, is it like great coffee bean?
One of my favorite. So I collect coffees everywhere I go.
That's where we're at. Okay.
I have a running list of every city that I go to. I try to buy locally roasted beans from a local roaster, and I have a running list on my phone of where I was, when I was there, the roaster, and the type of bean that I bought. That's my souvenir. And one of my favorites so far is Dave's Coffee from Providence, Rhode Island. That's one of those ones I've gone back and ordered more of it online. So
okay. Favorite go-to lens.
ooh, I'm a big fan of the super speeds. Those have done pretty well for me. I would say super speeds.
Okay. Top 3 movies.
Okay, so I have 5.
Oh.
So
right.
I can't have 3, and all 5 are tied for number 1. So Amelie, I guess if I twist my arm had to pick my favorite movie of all time, it'd be Amelie. But Amelie, American Beauty, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, and Saving Private Ryan.
Lost Spielberg there.
Yeah. Can't help
Spielberg,
it.
favorite director then?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. All right. So moving on here. Obviously we get paid to do this stuff, right? So professionally, like what part
Wait,
about wait, what? You get paid? No, seriously. It's cool. You talked about like your perks and things. How does that like weigh into being professionally fulfilled? I mean, you can make film on the weekend, but to
Right.
get paid to do that kind of thing, like where's that rank and how does that feel?
Well, it's pretty great to do something that you love. What's that old cliche? Like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I feel that way. I mean, this is what I always wanted to do. Quite honestly, I never thought I would be a DP. Certainly not in school. Like, being a DP kind of seemed out of reach for whatever reason. And then as I gained more experience and learned, everything just started to click. And then when you gave me my opportunities, starting on small shoots here and there, it all started to click, and it was like, oh, I can do this, and it just increased my passion for it more. I love what I do. I don't see myself doing anything else. Like, I wouldn't trade for anything.
So when you look back, on your professional career and like, you talk about these opportunities or whatever, and maybe the mistakes or whatever things you felt at the time were something that was slow in your process before it clicked. Like, do you look back as a learning experience on that? Like, how does that, like, what types of things could you like challenge or tell other like people who want to, to be a DP? Because I kind of don't like the aspiring DP. Like, you either are or you aren't, right? I mean, you just might not be good, but if you're directing photography, that's what you're doing. So walk me through, like, what would you mentor someone
Well, I think the biggest thing is that should always be learning, regardless of what you're doing. So, for me, one of the big things was lighting didn't connect for me in school, like where to put a light. I understood like the terms.
Sure. The tech part you got.
Yeah, but it was like when it's your decision to make, like, and how do you start? That took time for me to work. Like, I remember being a news photographer where you don't do a lot of lighting, but in the situations where I did have to like light an interview, I remember being really challenged by even just the basic lighting a single subject. And then when I was around more accomplished DPs and I started to see how they were doing things and started to learn techniques, I don't know what it was, it just started clicking for me. And now lighting is probably my favorite part about it. I subscribe to magazines, I watch blogs, I read articles nonstop. Like, you should always be learning no matter how long you do this. Even the most accomplished Academy Award winning DPs are still learning new things. There is new lighting every year. I go to NAB, I see all the new stuff every year. There's new techniques and gear coming out all the time, and you should never sit back on your laurels and go, okay, I've learned enough. Like, always be learning and make mistakes.
You have to make mistakes. I mean, you don't know. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? So like, if you try something and it doesn't work out right, like, a lot of times it's salvageable, but like, at least next time I'm not going to do that again.
Right.
Like, even if it's like, yeah, I got this great idea, I want to like this giant light, and then you walk in a room and like, well, this light doesn't even fit in this room. Like, well, that was a bonehead move.
Right.
But you still can make it work because maybe you can shine it through the outside of the room and bounce it in or whatever. But as lighting gets smaller and smaller and brighter, like, and when we started working with LEDs, with like these garbage, they got too much green in them, and like most of that stuff is gone now, or at least it can be correctable on the camera. And lenses are getting better and the sensors are getting better. So all those things that, I mean, for me, the basics, of photography and composition, like I'll always have, like those will never change.
Right.
But like the technical side of stuff, like, yeah, that's been lost on me for a while, just from my focus as being, changed. So, having someone that may know a skill set that even you're not familiar with, but that you can back up with your experience, because they might know the tech side. Like, there's always that learning opportunity. There's always that mentoring opportunity from, apprentice to, the master, I guess. Right.
Yeah. I mean, another one of my responsibilities is hiring the freelancers that we work with. Our business relies on quality freelancers. We can't do what we do without them. And so I love working with, great gaffers and ACs that, if I hire an AC, I want them to know more about the camera than I do. And when I hire a gaffer, like, I want them to know way more about lighting than I do. And that way I can communicate what's in my head and how, like, broad strokes, and then let them finesse it because they know the ins and outs of it.
Right.
And I rely on those guys. And so, I've worked with gaffers that have been gaffing longer than I've been alive. And I love that because they've seen way more situations than I have. They've run into way more problems than I have, and they've solved those problems. And then it's just more tools for my toolbox. Like, to me, that's everything.
All right. So besides the, hockey career in 2019 and the, hopefully our hometown team advancing in the playoffs, what excites you about 2019 here?
Seeing where we go next. I'm always looking forward to the next trip, the next new challenge. I'm always looking forward to new hockey stuff.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'm always looking forward to the future. And, like I said, I really love the travel. So where are we going next?
So, yeah, hopefully we'll get some new stuff coming here down the pipe, but John, I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really a lot easier once you got into it, right?
No.
Oh, whatever. You didn't even look at the camera.
Yeah, I
once.
did. Yeah, I did.
Lots of times. No, thanks, John.
Thank you.